Bill and Ben. The very strong Pong.
Bill and Ben.
Early one morning, Bill, Ben and Weed were woken by a lot of angry voices, all talking at once. "Smells don't usually bother me," Whoops was saying. "I come across all sorts as I'm recycling and turning the earth, I do, but this, woohoo! "If it gets into my store of nuts," said Scamper, "my whole winter hoard will be ruined." "It's a disgrace," said Pry. "Shouldn't be allowed, and I want to know what's going to be done about it." "One at a time, please," Weed called, and they all stopped. Bill and Ben stretched and yawned in their flower pots. "Flobberweed," said Bill sleepily. "Flobberlo," said Ben. Suddenly, all the animals started to shout again. "Please, please, please!" cried Weed. "Well," said Scamper, "can't you smell it?" Weed and Bill and Ben sniffed the air. "Flobber poor!" said Bill. "Flobber poor!" said Ben. "Oh my! What is that awful smell?" asked Weed. "We thought it might have something to do with you two," said Boo, looking sternly at Bill and Ben. "Flobbered us?" said Bill, amazed. Ben shook his head. "Flobber way," he said. "It's certainly a horrible smell," said Weed, "and I'm sure Bill and Ben are just as anxious as you are to get rid of it." Bill and Ben agreed. "Then why don't you both go and see if you can find out what it is?" said Weed. Bill and Ben thought this was a very good idea indeed. They could pretend to be famous detectives. Smell detectives! "Flobber-Derlock-Holmes," said Bill. "Flobber-damn-spade," said Ben. The flowerpot men decided to follow their noses. And then wish they hadn't. "Well, whatever it is," said Pry, "let's hope you find it soon." Bill thought they should start by looking in the potting shed. Ben thought the kennel would be a good place to begin. Then the same idea occurred to them both. "Slobberdob!" they said together, and zipped round to Slowcoach's house. They knocked and called, but there was no reply. So, since Slowcoach wasn't at home, Bill and Ben decided to go in and have a look around. After all, they were detectives. Inside Slowcoach's house, Bill and Ben tested the air. Nobble-ob. But the smell didn't seem to be there. Just then, Slowcoach turned up. He was rather annoyed to find Bill and Ben in his house. "What are you two doing here?" he demanded. Bill tried to explain. "Flobber-dobber-pong! Are you suggesting my house is smelly?" asked Slowcoach. "Be off with you!" he said, and Bill and Ben scooted out of the door. "Not only trespassing, but insulting the oldest member of the community as well," Slowcoach grumbled. "What is the world coming to?" Boo told Bill and Ben that drains could be smelly, so they zipped away to investigate the one near Thistle. "Look what the cat dragged in," observed Thistle sourly. "I suppose this smell has something to do with you two." "Flobber-dob!" said Ben indignantly. It certainly wasn't. Bill and Ben lifted up the drain cover and peered into its murky depths. Ben leaned over and tumbled right into the drain, so that his feet waved frantically in the air. "Flubber, whelp!" he called. Bill went over and helped to pull Ben out. "Flubber!" Bill gasped as he strained to pull Ben out. Suddenly, Ben was free again, but covered in leaves and goo from the drain. Bill went over to Ben and gave a good sniff. "Flubber-dubber-mel!" he said. The stuff from the drain that covered Ben did smell rather nasty, but it wasn't the same smell as they'd all smelled earlier. Bill helped Ben to have a quick shower under the garden tap. But as Ben was shaking the last of the water from his head, they both heard someone sobbing. "Boo-hoo-hoo! Boo-hoo-hoo!" Who could it be? Perhaps it was Weed. Bill and Ben went to look. No, Weed wasn't sobbing. She thought the sound was coming from next door. Once again, the Flowerpot Men scooted away, hot on the trail. When Bill and Ben arrived in the garden next door, they found the smell was stronger than ever. "Flubber-poo!" said Bill. "Flubber-poo!" went Ben. "Oh, whoa!" came Rose's voice. "Woe is me! Boo-hoo-hoo!" The Flowerpot Men went to see what was wrong. "Oh, I suppose you've both come to gloat," said Rose. But Bill and Ben explained how they'd been looking for a bad smell, and then they'd heard Rose crying. "It's me!" she sobbed. "They've put a load of manure around my roots," wept Rose. "They said it'd help me grow. But I don't want to grow if I have to smell this bad. I shall never live this down." And sure enough, Rose had a very, very smelly pile of manure all round her. "Flubber-nure? Pwah!" giggled Bill. "Flubber-pong!" gasped Ben. Then Bill and Ben had a really brilliant idea. They whizzed off to the garden shed and fetched 2 spades. Reassuring Rose that they were not going to dig her up, Bill and Ben started to dig the manure into the ground. When it was all completely buried, Bill and Ben stepped back from their work. "Ah, flubber-lovely," said Bill. "Ah," said Ben. Rose gave a little sniff too. "I do believe you've done it," she said. "I smell quite delicious again. There's just one thing, though," she added. Bill and Ben waited. Maybe Rose would give them a reward. Instead, she said, "Would you mind leaving now? You do rather clutter up my nice tidy garden." "Flub!" Picking up their spades, Bill and Ben stomped off, disgusted. "Don't worry about that, snooty Rose," said Weed when they told her what had happened. "The garden smells lovely again. You're a very clever pair." Her voice trailed away as she realized that Bill and Ben were no longer listening. The Flowerpot Men were so tired after all their hard work, they'd forgotten the very nasty smell and had fallen fast asleep. The end.
Bill and Ben, the Flowerpot Men. Bill and Ben, the Flowerpot Men. They've been playing in the playing with their friends. Now they'll be sleeping in their pot.